All right, y'all, I want to talk about something that I feel is very, very timely and also very important for many people, especially those of us who are into trading. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. Obviously, it will involve trading, it will involve cryptocurrency, but it's going to extend far beyond that. And I want to talk about how to become self-sufficient. And not only that, I want to talk about how easy it can be to become more self-sufficient, and also how important it is for us, especially those of us who enjoy autonomy, who enjoy freedom, Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look around at the world today and realize that things are getting pretty crazy out there, and things are going to be changing quickly, especially for those of us who live in the Western nations. I myself, living in the United States, I believe that within the next few years, we're going to see some dramatic changes to the life that at least me and my generation, me being 30 years old, we are going to see drastic changes to the life that we have been accustomed to growing up. And so it's been my goal for a long time. I would say since, maybe almost 10 years now, to become as self-sufficient as possible. And I've broken this down into many different categories of how to become self-sufficient. And I believe that everybody, regardless of your goals in life, can take this information and use it to better themselves, better life for themselves, their family, and even their community. So make sure to like the video, guys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. So I want to talk about how to become self-sufficient. Now, trading, my channel is a trading channel, okay? I am known for trading, and that's what this channel is known for. But why did I get into trading in the first place? I got into trading in the first place because it can allow me to become more self-sufficient, because it allows me to generate an income without having a boss, without having clients, without having hours. And basically, I can do this from wherever I am in the world. I don't need to have anybody else telling me what to do. If anything goes wrong, it's only my fault, and I am completely responsible for it. Now, another reason why I got into trading was to acquire real wealth. Now, this is something that I feel a lot of people miss when they are getting into trading and investing and even starting businesses, and that's this. Just because you have a lot of money, just because you have a lot of dollars, does not mean that you have wealth. Historically, and even today, true wealth is defined as land and animals. And why is that? Because those are true resources. Those are true resources. If there happened to be a food shortage, a massive food shortage, let's just say hypothetically, the grocery stores were empty and there was no food anywhere, your dollars, your Bitcoin would be totally worthless to you because you had no food. But if somebody had lots of food, that food is true wealth because it's providing nutrition and sustenance for life, for humans, for animals. Land is a place where you can produce food, and animals also on that land help to produce the food, help to nurture the soil, and also produce food themselves, milk, eggs, meat, etc. And so I look at trading as not an end within itself, but a means to an end. The end being acquiring land, acquiring animals, and becoming self-sufficient in all aspects of life, okay? And so I kind of want to discuss how anybody can move more in that direction, because I feel it's going to become more and more important, especially for those of us who have grown up, myself included, in urban or suburban areas, not understanding where food comes from, not understanding the work ethic and the mindset of our ancestors who for generations have lived lifestyles of self-sufficiency, producing food for themselves. And basically, when you do that, you are the most free that you can possibly be. because nobody can control what you do by taking away resources from you, because you're producing them yourself. So I want to talk about basically the three main things that you can focus on to start moving in this direction if you're interested. And the first one is, even though and of course this also, the self-sufficiency kind of thing, I would prefer it myself, and I'm sure many others would prefer not to actually have to have a typical job, right? Typically that 9-to-5 job is something that obviously is necessary at times, but the goal should always be to move away from that, because that in and of itself is making you literally a slave to somebody else. And if you don't do your slave work, then you can't live, because you can't buy, you're not going to get that money, so you're not going to be able to buy that food, right? You need to get out of that cycle. So in order to do that, what we first need to do is we need to get out of debt and keep expenses low. Now, this is hard for a lot of people, and I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm just here to speak what is on my heart and on my mind. But we have been so accustomed, and I'm speaking mostly to my fellow Americans here. My fellow Americans, all right? Good old George W. Bush, right? We've been so accustomed to such a lavish lifestyle that a lot of people live outside of their means. They live outside of their means. What I mean by that is people have mortgages, people have car payments, people are in so much debt that the goal of their life essentially is to get out of that debt and hopefully someday pay it off. People go to college and get into debt so that they can get a job and pay off their debt, so that they can get a house and have more debt and then work this job to pay off the debt. That is no way to be living. Instead, we should be focusing on living crappier lifestyles. I'm just going to say it how it is. If we can get out of debt and keep expenses low, it will make self-sufficiency much easier. We don't need lots of the modern conveniences that we have in life. And these things all build on each other. If we can, these three things that I have here, getting out of debt, starting a business, learn to trade and invest, I would say probably that these things should come first, right? Because how are we going to get out of debt? How are we going to keep our expenses low? First, I would say is start businesses. Anything you can do to generate a little bit more income, whether it be an online business, whether it be a literal business, if you're good at roofing, if you're good at anything, start a business. Start a business. Generate some extra income. And with that income, learn how to invest it. Learn how to trade. This is why I got into trading in the first place. Because for a number of years, the Lord blessed me with a business that I had. And I took that money that I was making from the business and I started a trading account and I learned how to trade. Of course, it was a long, bumpy ride. I lost a lot of money along the way. But I learned how to trade and I learned how to take that money and grow that money. Okay, so starting a business, learning how to trade and invest, this is pretty key to getting out of debt and keeping expenses low, because what this will allow you to do is it will allow you to take money that you've made yourself and then multiply that money that you've made yourself, and you can use that to pay off debt or potentially buy an area, a piece of land, a property or something, and pay it off in full. And this is something that is tough for a lot of people, but you know, land is not that expensive in many areas of the United States. Even to this day, it's getting much worse now. But you can get some good land. You can even get a modular home built for pretty inexpensive, right? Pretty inexpensive. And there's a lot of options out there to keep expenses low. Like, for example, you don't even need to have a septic tank. this is going to sound radical to some people, but you can have composting toilets where literally in your house, you have a toilet where after you go, you just pour some wood chips on top and it just decomposes. It doesn't even smell, right? There's so many ways to lower our expenses, okay? Now, trading is something that has really changed my life, okay? And I believe this can change a lot of people's lives, but it's something that you need to learn. So if this is something that you do want to learn, I do have a course. You could check it out, jasoncaspertrading.com. This will give you the knowledge and the skills you need to become a confident, profitable trader. Speaking of businesses, guys, this is my business. This literally is my business, okay? This is my business. I take the money I make from this business. I use it to trade. I grow the money. This is the cycle that I feel that is beneficial for people who desire to become self-sufficient. If you're interested in the course, there's a 30% discount in the description of the video. This will give you an excellent foundation for understanding actually how to trade. Also, if you're looking for a community of traders, you can check out patreon.com/JasonCasper. This is the VIP Discord that I have. We have an excellent community in there, giving technical analysis on a daily basis, giving trade setups like this yesterday live on YouTube.
Div right here, guys. So
I gave this trade setup.
That is something
that has played out very nicely, actually. Right here, waiting to come above the level, take the long trade, and I mean, let's see here. It's played out pretty nicely so far, right? And it's not a signals group, but it's a community of traders to help you learn, basically. Okay. Yeah. So once you have this cycle going, where you have a business and you can then grow that money, then you can get out of debt. And if you can keep your expenses low, that's also going to be very beneficial for you. So what I mean by that is, for me, I literally only need a few $1,000s monthly just to keep on doing what I'm doing. And that is very, very beneficial for me, because if something were to happen, my expenses are not that high, where I feel that I would be all right. Okay. Now, I want to talk about some simple things you can do to become self-sufficient when it comes to growing food. When it comes to growing food and just providing more food for yourself, because part of keeping expenses low is producing as much food as you can for yourself and for your family. Now, it's amazing that just 2 generations ago, everybody grew a garden, grew some kind of plants, grew some kind of food. In the 30s, it was normal for everybody, even in suburban areas, to have huge gardens, because it was what they call the Great Depression. And even my grandfather, both of my grandfathers, they grew up in a very agrarian lifestyle. My one grandfather, on my father's side, he actually grew up on a farm. He had 100 chickens, he had goats, he had all this stuff. My other grandfather, he grew up in Cuba, and although he didn't actually have a farm, he was very poor in Cuba. He worked for a sugar mill. His family, basically, the sugar mill, it was like feudalism, essentially. The sugar mill was the lords, and they were the peasants, and the sugar mill gave them housing and stuff, and they worked for the sugar mill. But my grandfather tells me all the time about his mother, who grew a whole bunch of plants in the garden. They raised pigeons and stuff, right? We are living in basically an unsustainable kind of lifestyle, where we don't produce our own food. We are dependent upon things that are quickly becoming less dependable, such as the supply chain, grocery stores, factory farms, and basically just things that could go away instantaneously, and most people would have no idea what to do. And so there are some simple things you can do to produce food for yourself and your family. And the first thing that I recommend everybody does if they're looking to go down this road is plant some potatoes, guys. Plant some potatoes. Potatoes are easy to grow. I'm so serious. They're the easiest things in the world to grow, okay? I have grown potatoes literally in the worst of conditions. You can take a shovel, go out in your backyard, dig a hole, okay? Literally just dig a hole, chop a potato that you got from the store in half. If it has some eyes on it, chop that thing in half, put it in the hole, cover it back with dirt, okay? It's gonna start to sprout. Once it sprouts, cover it with some more dirt. Just keep doing that, and eventually you'll have a ton of potatoes. You can grow these things anywhere. You can grow them in colder climates. You can grow them in warmer climates. If you live down south in a warmer climate, you could get multiple harvests of potatoes. But these things are very high in calories. They're very versatile. They're very tasty. I mean, you could have baked potatoes, mashed potatoes, hash browns. You could have French fries. You could have home fries. You could have sauteed potatoes. You could make latkes for Hanukkah. You know what I'm saying? These things are good. You could grow sweet potatoes, white potatoes, yellow potatoes, red potatoes, purple potatoes. These things are so easy to grow. The way I do it is actually, I do for my potatoes, I do like a Ruth Stout kind of method where I just cover the ground with a whole bunch of hay and straw and grass clippings. And I just make rows of compost, which is easy to make yourself. And then you just throw them in there and cover them up with straw. You know, this it's just rows of dirt. You just put the potatoes in there. I don't have many pictures of it, but I should take more pictures. But I mean, the harvest you can get, this right here, what you're looking at, it's hard to see how many potatoes is actually here, but this is just a small portion of our potato harvest last year. I mean, we have so many potatoes, and it's really hard to get an idea of how many potatoes are actually here. This is hundreds and hundreds of pounds of potatoes, and this is about a third of our potato harvest right here. It's kind of hard to see, but it's so easy to do, and you're basically producing massive quantities of calories, good tasting calories, for yourself and for your family. That's very, very inexpensive and very, very easy to do. Because when you're looking to grow food, you want to make sure that you are prioritizing first. Number one thing is calories, right? Calories. People grow these gardens and it's like, yeah, I have like tomatoes and lettuce and like radishes and carrots and you know, broccoli. But and they put so much work into it. But at the end of the day, if the grocery store was gone tomorrow, are you going to really be able to live on that? Of course not. But if you had a giant field of potatoes, I kid you not, we harvested our potatoes last year around, well, we had 2 harvests, okay? I'm looking right now literally at a giant box of potatoes that I still have from last year, and I am getting ready to plant new potatoes this year in a few weeks. They will last you all year. You will have food all year if you learn to plant these potatoes. And once you have the calories down, then we need to fill our food production with vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, right? Once we have the calories down, then we want to focus on the nutrients. So I would say the foundation should always be potatoes, because they're so easy. Even if you've never gardened before, you can grow them. And then I would say squash is the next thing that you should focus on, because squash is easy to grow. It's very high in nutrients. It's super versatile. I mean, you could make pumpkin pie with squash. You could make a butternut squash pie. You could chop them up into cubes and cook them like sweet potatoes. And the seeds are edible, and they taste great. The seeds are edible. So not only is a squash a source of nutrients and vitamins, but it tastes good, and the seeds are very high in protein and fat as well. So with your potatoes and squash alone, you now have carbohydrates, you have fat, you have protein, and you have vitamins and stuff and micronutrients from the squash. So just with these 2 things alone, you can have very nutritious diet. And these squash, if you're growing winter squash, they last all year. I'm looking right now at spaghetti squash and pumpkins that I have here in the basement that I harvested in like September. And here it is March, and they have not gone rotten because they're cured and they will stay all winter. You can produce food for yourself this way. Now, squashes, they're very easy to grow as well. Okay, you do need to have a little bit more nutrient soil for them to grow, but they will grow. And like I said, they're super high in nutrients. Now I don't have a lot of pictures of squashes. These here are some pumpkins, some spaghetti squashes that I grew. These are honey nut squashes. These are some of the ones that they got a little damaged, so we had to eat them soon. Here's some sweet potatoes that we grew over here too. But these things, the seeds are great. They're high in nutrients, and it will produce food for you, legitimate food. If you just have like maybe 20 of these squash plants out somewhere, doesn't have to even be that big of a space. The vines will grow wild. You can harvest a lot of squash, right? And then once we have that down, I would say the next most important thing to grow would be greens like kale and Swiss chard and mustard greens and spinach and stuff like that, because these things are very high in nutrients and vitamins. They're good for your immunity, they're good for your body, and they're very versatile as well. I mean, you could saute kale and it tastes great. You could steam kale, you could eat it raw, you could use it as a garnish, you could make salad with it, and it's easy to grow. And I don't really have any good pictures of my kale or greens, but this is a typical daily harvest of greens that my family would eat. And you could see, I mean, I'm a very large person, I have very big hands. It's kind of hard to tell from this picture, but you can see how much greens we actually are getting. And just a few plants, like I have a very small bed that I actually grow my greens in, a very small bed. This is it, okay? In the front of the house, I have just made this tiny little garden bed for my greens. And the reason why it's in front of the house is because they grow best in shade with little sun. And I'm not even kidding when I say we get so much chard and we get so much kale and we get so much spinach and mustard greens that we still have a ton of it frozen right now in the freezer from last year. We have so much of it because it will just keep producing and producing and producing and producing. You cut those leaves off and another one grows back of chard and kale and mustard greens and spinach and stuff like that. And collard greens are great. Cabbages, you know, I love cabbages. We do grow cabbages, but it's like once and done for the cabbage, right? So if the priority is producing food as much as possible, then I would say go with the kale, go with the Swiss chard, go with the collard greens, perhaps mustard greens and spinach. And you would be so surprised how just growing these things will radically reduce. Here's some squashes as well, some butternut squashes. These things will radically reduce your grocery bills, right? It will radically reduce your grocery bills when you are producing potato. I mean, you know, think about what the average person would eat. Well, I don't know what the average person eats, actually. I eat I eat a very clean diet. So for me, like an average meal for me would be like some vegetable, some starch, some protein, okay? That's literally an average meal for me. So with these three things alone, potatoes, squash, and greens, that's pretty much most of a complete meal for me, right? The only thing that's missing is some protein. And so we're going to get into that. Something else to keep in mind, guys, growing herbs, very good for immunity, adding flavor to your food. They're easy to grow. Garlic, so easy to grow, so easy. Anyone can grow garlic. And you can save it all year and then plant it again the next year. Oregano, super good for the immunity. Mint, if you plant mint, first of all, not only can you make some great virgin mojitos if you grow your own limes and coconuts, but that stuff will take over. It's like a weed, right? Parsley, oregano, mint, these things will grow and just keep growing and just keep coming back. You'll have spices, you'll have herbs. It's good for your immunity. It's good for your chickens and stuff. So we've covered carbohydrates. We've covered squash for nutrients, vitamins, protein and fat in the seeds, greens, herbs, and then chickens, guys. We have to talk about chickens, because chickens will totally change your life. Now, y'all know I love me some chickens, okay? Y'all know I love me some chickens. I really do love chickens because they are super cheap. They require very little space. They require very little care. They require very little food. I'm going to get into that. And they will provide you with protein and fat. which is very important. I really enjoy having chickens, guys. I love having eggs. I mean, this is literally right here. This is like just the amount of eggs that I will get in a day. So this glass bowl is eggs from one day, and this red bucket is eggs from the day before. Now, never keep your eggs in one basket, guys. Never keep all your eggs in one basket, but look at all the eggs we get. This is so great, especially when combined with the potatoes and the squash. Okay, you could have some breakfast. You could have scrambled eggs with hash browns with some sautéed butternut squash chopped up. That's a wonderful breakfast, right? You could, I mean, I you know, the eggs, we have different breeds of chickens. You know, you can get multiple colors of eggs and stuff like that. The kids love eggs. Do the chicken dance with the chickens or whatever, right? But seriously, guys, chickens, they are. This is when we got some new pullets, and we were trying to get them used to these other chickens here. Chickens are not difficult to take care of, right? They do not require a lot of space. They do not require a lot of space at all. Of course, the more space you give them, the better. But they are a constant source of protein and fat. Let me talk about some of the benefits of chickens. First of all, they eat anything. If you let your chickens free range and roam around wherever they want, if you have a decent amount of property or a yard or something, they require very little food to maintain. Because usually people say, well, how much does it cost to feed your chickens? Right? Oh, what a liability chickens are, because you have to feed them. Well, here's the thing. Chickens are birds, y'all. Okay? And birds, they don't get fed by people unless people have a bird feeder or they go to the park and feed ducks bread in the lake, right? If you let your chickens roam around, they are professional scavengers. They will scavenge and find food. Chickens will eat anything. So what we do is we give them all our food scraps. People throw away so much food. I've seen people throw away so much food. If our kids don't eat something, we give it to the chickens. If I don't eat something, I give it to the chickens. If something starts to get a little funk, we give it to the chickens. Chickens will roam around. They will, as you can see here, roam around, and I guess this is not really a picture of what I want to show, but they will go and mix around this hay that I have lying around and eat bugs and eat grass and eat hay. They will even eat fungus and things that are decomposing in the dirt. All right, these chickens, they will eat dirt. They will help you make compost, okay? But honestly, I have anywhere on average between 20 and 30 chickens at a time. And I will say that if I had to, I would say that I could probably get by feeding all these chickens on less than $50 a month. Now, even if you don't feed them at all, they will still probably do all right as long as they're still laying eggs. That means they're still healthy. The only time you're actually going to have to feed your chickens grain is during those few weeks if you live in a colder climate where there's literally no dirt or no grass visible. And even if you, in that case, right, you can feed them anything. You could feed them your potatoes. You could feed them your greens. You could feed them your squash and your squash seeds. The chickens will eat anything. So it's not that expensive to feed, but you can also grow your own chicken feed. So for example, here, I grew a 1/4 acre of oatmeal, okay? And I've also grown other grains like amaranth. I don't really have a picture of my amaranth, but this literally, you can buy oats, like whole oats, horse food, right? Horse food, whole oats. Go out there and literally I grew these oats, guys, with a fertilizer spreader that you can get at Walmart for like $20. All right, I just dug up the dirt. I did use a rototiller. I used a rototiller. I just rototilled the dirt, went out there with a fertilizer spreader, spread the oats. They grew, okay? They came to fruition here. And then I harvested these oats myself, and I used these oats to feed my chickens, right? Look at these beautiful oats right here. Look at these beautiful oats. And I went out there, guys, I'm not even joking, right? I went out there with a sickle. I cut this stuff by hand. You don't need heavy machinery. Put it in a wheelbarrow, right? Then you take it out into the driveway, and you basically, you thresh it with a rake and with your feet. You stomp all over it. It separates the wheat berries from the straw, and then basically you just rake up all the straw. Give the straw to your chickens. The straw can be used to make compost. You take those wheat berries, even though these are oats, and you put them in buckets, and your chickens will eat them, right? You can grow your own chicken food. They're so inexpensive. I mean, the bag of oats, I think it was a 25-pound bag of oats that I had, and it must have cost me like $30. And you get so many oats from that, and it will provide your chickens with food. Another great thing about chickens, guys, is they poop. They poop, and when they poop, it makes a great fertilizer for your soil, and you can use that to make compost. You know, right here, I don't know if you can see this, but we do have out here compost piles, right? These are compost piles, and this compost right here is literally just leaves, grass, and chicken poop. Just leaves, grass, and chicken poop. That's it. Leaves, grass, and chicken poop. And you can kind of see some of our gardens here. So like this right here was all tomatoes, and then over here, this is where we grow like a lot of our herbs, and we grow nasutorums and a whole bunch of spices and stuff. And then over in this area, we've got amaranth growing, we've got potatoes, we've got garlic, we've got squash, we've got beans. But the chicken poop is so good for the soil, guys. I literally put the chicken poop down after it sits for a year over the winter in a compost pile. You can then put that chicken poop into the dirt, which will make your soil super rich, which will then allow your vegetables to grow very nicely later on in the year. And one more thing I should add, actually, is beans. Okay, I don't really have it on the list, but if you can grow beans, pinto beans, black beans, kidney beans. These are some pinto beans and some white beans that we grew. I grow a lot of beans as well, and that's a protein source, a carbohydrate source, a great source of vitamins. Potatoes, beans, squash, and greens. Potatoes, beans, squash, and greens. Something else, guys, that you can do is make your own maple syrup. A great source of calories. This is
So this is a gallon of maple sap right here, and I've got
this is a gallon of maple sap
We've been getting about
right here, and literally all you have to do to make maple syrup is drill a hole in a tree. You can see it's like, hang on, it's like water basically, guys. I mean, literally, it looks like water. You drill a hole in a tree, you attach a hose to it, and it comes down into the water jug. And you know, during the time of year where it's cold at night and warm during the day, you can get gallons of this a day if you have any maple trees around. And you know, you can make maple syrup, right? You literally just boil it down. You boil it down in a pot, and it will 1 gallon will boil down, and then you can make yourself jars of this delicious maple syrup, right? So dang good, right? And so, bonus, guys, is goats. Okay, if you can have goats, wonderful. You can have miniature dairy goats to produce a lot of milk. You can make cheese. You can make yogurt. You can have meat. And the dairy goat thing is a path that I am also going down. And we were down that path, and now I currently have no goats anymore. But I am quickly trying to remedy that. So, one more thing, guys, that I have to talk about with all this stuff of becoming more self-sufficient is having faith. Having faith is so important. Now, I know not everybody is religious. And that's totally okay. But here's the thing. Everybody has to have faith in something. Everybody has faith in something. Even people who say, I have no faith in anything. That's actually not true, because when you... What is the definition of faith? Faith is not an intellectual assent to saying, oh, I believe something. Faith is actually an actionable verb, right? It's an action word. if you have faith in something, it's going to change the way you behave. Because if, let's say, you have faith in the supply chain, in the fact that the grocery stores will always have food there for you, that is going to affect your actions, because you are not going to feel the need to grow your own food or become more self-sufficient in any way. And when it comes to growing your own food and being self-sufficient, your faith, the object of your faith, has to change, because it has to be now in God. Or, personally, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus being the Messiah, being God in the flesh, dying and rising again. That's my belief. Now, I know not everybody believes that, but you're going to have to put your faith in something that transcends yourself. And even if you are, most people, when they say that they have no faith or whatever, because a lot of people say that, not everyone, they still are putting their faith in something that transcends themselves. Because what are they relying on for their sustenance? Instead of praying to God, they are just saying, well, I trust in the man-made system of the supply chain. I trust in the fact that the grocery stores are always going to have food for me. I trust in the fact that the dollar's not going to hyperinflate, and that there's not going to be some kind of economic collapse, and that everything's going to be honky-dory. They have faith in that, and it transcends themselves, because they really have no control over those things. And so when it comes to growing your own food, when it comes to being self-sufficient, you have to have faith in God, because He is the one that causes these things to grow. He is the one who has the power to give and take life away from plants and animals and humans. And for me personally, I have to say that my faith in the Lord has been such an anchor in my journey of all the things that I've gone over here. Okay, my goal to be self-sufficient is actually rooted in my desire to live a life according to the way I believe God has created humans to live. And so in all these things, in literally starting businesses, in learning how to trade, to getting out of debt, to learning how to grow my own food, being a person from the city who's going down this road, my faith in the Lord has really not only helped and strengthened me in this journey, but I believe that He has also blessed me abundantly in my journey. And I am just in awe of His faithfulness and His goodness and His mercy toward me. And I encourage everybody to seek God in their journey to become more self-sufficient. Because, like I said before, at the end of the day, we have no control over anything that happens, whether it be the events that are taking place in the world, or whether it be the fact that we can go to the grocery store and buy food, or the fact that we will have a job tomorrow, right? We put our faith in these man-made systems that are so fragile, when we could be putting our faith in the eternal, all-powerful God, who is, He does not faint, He does not grow weary, right? And so I am just in awe of the fact that He has created these things that we can do to provide for our families, creating food that can reproduce, that can come out of the ground, that can produce all the things we need to live. It says in Scripture that if you, well, I'm paraphrasing here. But basically, if you are walking in a way that the Lord has called you to walk, and conducting your life in a righteous way, in the book of Deuteronomy, God promises that whatever you put your hand to do, the Lord will bless you. And I can say from personal experience that that is absolutely true. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure to like the dang video, guys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I know this is a different video than normal, but like I said, I feel that this is a pressing video in these times. And for me, trading is just one aspect of this whole umbrella of self-sufficiency, right? It's just one aspect. You could be trading, you could be a multi-billionaire because of all your Bitcoins. But again, that is not going to help you if you don't have actual actual land and animals and know what to do with it. So that being said, God bless everybody, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.